We're going to get started with a lunch presentation. My name is Chip Dickinson. I'm on the CAPLA board. I'm also the training and certification coordinator for the Nova Scotia Boat Builders Association. So, yeah, good day. I'm also, it seems like, the lone voice for trades in the room. Okay, good. Before we start our lunch presentation, I want to take a moment to once again thank the province of Ontario for being a gold sponsor. This is very important to this conference, and we certainly appreciate their support. It's my honor to be called to introduce our guest speaker, keynote speaker, Carol Timlin, who is your boss, I guess, Amanda. Okay, then. We'll be nice to her. Carol is the founding executive director of the Victoria County Career Services Organization, an employment counseling agency serving youth, adults, and older workers in the city of Kawartha Lakes in Ontario. For the past 29 years, that's a significant length of time. VCCS is well recognized for their work and expertise locally and provincially. They've been involved with CAPLA and the Competency Portfolio Community Alliance for many years in a variety of ways. Carol has a master's in social work and over 35 years experience working in the social service field. God bless you. Mostly in employment counseling. So ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to Carol Timlin. Okay.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Hopefully you can hear me. I'll try to adjust that a little bit. So I'm the Executive Director of VCCS Employment Services in Lindsay, Ontario, and we're an Employment Ontario service provider and the only one delivering employment services for Employment Ontario in our particular catchment area. And Bonnie had asked me to share some information on a new research project that we're about to undertake, and I'm really pleased to be here to do so today. So just to give you some background, and I hope it doesn't overlap too much with what Amanda has presented already, but we're in the city of Kawartha Lakes, which is kind of ironic because we don't have a city at all within our geographic area. We're about an hour and a half outside of Toronto. We're primarily a rural area. The town of Lindsay population is just under 20,000, and our whole city of Kawartha Lakes area is around 75,000, so pretty rural, and with a lot of small and medium-sized employers. And not unexpectedly, the employment sectors in our area focus around agriculture, tourism, and manufacturing, but really agriculture and tourism being probably the highest sectors. About 7 or 8 years ago, the Targeted Initiative for Older Worker program began in Ontario, and it's around that same time that Bonnie Kennedy met with me and asked me if we would consider looking at portfolios for use in our agency. And I can say we didn't really know much about portfolios. We probably weren't a great fan of portfolios. We worked with the unemployed of all ages, and we sort of saw portfolios as something that was used for people that wanted to challenge their academic qualifications. But I did see I thought we had some interest in looking to see if we could challenge employers' expectations and employers' academic qualifications. That would be a better fit for us, because a lot of our job seekers want to find the quickest path to employment. They need a job, and they need to do it right away. So Bonnie said, well, how about give it a try? And we said, okay, but first we need to know something about this, because our idea of portfolios was people had this folder with a bunch of stuff in it, and they didn't really know what to do with it, and it didn't seem to be relevant to anything. It was just, anything that you thought was relevant, you threw in a folder. So, and some of our employment counselors had gone through that. They had gone through some community colleges, and they had portfolios that they used or had to develop as part of a course. And again, that's what they did with it. They came to an interview with a huge binder and they presented it to us, and we never knew what to do with it when we were looking at it. And it was always very awkward, and so that was our experience with portfolios. So we started at the beginning, and we gathered up other service providers from a 4-county area around us in employment and literacy and said, are you interested in looking at this? And we all agreed, but we all said, we have to start from square one. We don't know anything about fundamentals. We need to get some training for our staff before we can get involved in this. So we turned to CAPLA and brought in someone from Red River College. She did some training with our counselors and our literacy professionals, and then after that we had them all go through an online portfolio course so they would have some background. But we found out that that really wasn't enough. People still said, well, I got this training but I don't know what to do with it. So we got some more funding and we decided, okay, we need to develop workshop materials. Amanda had mentioned those and has brought some of those materials if you would like them. And so we developed workshop materials. We started training organizations in using workshop materials. We spoke at a lot of conferences. And we also tested the materials with both older workers, recipients of Ontario Works, and youth in our community. And for us at VCCS, we could see the value right away in using the portfolios. And so we incorporated that into any group workshop that we had. We really appreciated how portfolio development could bring out a lot of the skills that our older workers had. Most older workers that we were involved with really discounted their experience because they didn't have the academic credentials. They couldn't back up what they thought they knew, and they really didn't have the confidence in their skills anyway, so they chose, in most cases, not to talk about them. And if they did happen to get an interview, they didn't do well in presenting their experience. And so even though with 20 to 30 years of experience, they often were ignored in the job search process. Sorry, I've jumped ahead. I'm talking away from my notes here. Amanda probably mentioned that the workshop participants, when they went through the portfolio process, felt overwhelmed with it at the beginning. They didn't like it. They didn't want to do it. But we didn't give them an option. And at the end, they were really felt good about themselves. They felt good about their accomplishments. And we took it to the point where even if they wanted to get some provincial training and they had to put in a proposal to the government, we made sure that they included their portfolio. We made that a requirement that that happen. So about 4 years ago, too, we came to a CAPLA conference and we heard from some employers speaking, and we really thought, well, that seems to be a missing piece for us. In the first year of our process as the competency group, we brought in some employers, and somebody mentioned that they heard us, they remembered us talking about someone from Canadian Tire that came to a meeting and said, I think this is the greatest thing, anything that you can do to show us how older workers can prove their learning, and then we can look at that and it'll make our process easier. Sign us up, we're on board. So we felt really good about that, and then after hearing employers at CAPLA present, we thought, okay, we need to get some employers involved at our table. Now, like most things, it's really hard to get employers to come out to meetings, especially in the daytime and at agency. So what ended up happening is most of our employer advisory group is made up of HR professionals who are great in their way, but somewhat resistant to the whole idea about competencies and using those and assessing those competencies in their recruitment. And as some of them said, you know, when I have a pile of 200 applicants, it's much easier for me to go through that and screen out and look at everybody that's got their BA than it is for me to look at the pile and try to assess, do they have that requirement that we're looking for. So, you know, it's a work in progress for sure. So last year, there was the Ontario Centre for Workforce Innovation. OCWI was formed by our provincial Ministry of Advanced Education and Skills Development. And OCWI is housed at Ryerson, and they are the Centre for Research, Innovation and Collaboration. And they're specifically looking at the Ontario employment and training sector. And they put out a call for proposal this summer for an exploratory project around older workers. And right away I said, this is our opportunity. I think we can do something with this. It's research, it's a little different than what we usually do, but let's take advantage of this opportunity. So we submitted a proposal, and we're one of 5 shortlisted, and we went through then submitting a full proposal, and just last week we found out that we've been approved for funding. So that's really what I'm talking a little bit about today, telling you what we're going to be doing, and maybe next year we'll be able to bring you the outcomes of our project. But this project fits in with OCWI's vision to provide a more skilled, resilient and productive Ontario workforce. As well, in conversation OCWI had with the employment service sector, it stressed the importance of employers to be able to find the right candidate with the right set of skills, and for service providers to better understand employers' hiring needs and to match job seekers more effectively. So this project focuses on the employer needs and addresses the skills gap which many employers believe exists. So in phase 1 of our project, we're exploring the question, what do employers need in order to identify competencies? Right now in our area, employers are having issues finding the right employees for their business, and this is often translated widely as a skills gap. In rural areas like ours, there are many small employers who do their own hiring. They don't have an HR department to conduct recruitment. And overall, they're not well versed to recognize or evaluate experience, and especially looking at experience that doesn't have the credentials. Most employers list the qualifications they require in their job descriptions if they have them, and we work with a lot of employers that don't even have job descriptions, which some of you may find hard to believe, but it happens. They know they can say what the job is, but they can't articulate the skills. They just need somebody, they typically need them right away, and that's how they present them to us. But often if they do have a job description, there is that line about or equivalency. But when pressed, even the HR folks on our committee cannot identify what the equivalency is, and they have no way to evaluate the equivalency and in a resume or a portfolio. So it's a common thing that it's included, but it's not, there's no way to evaluate it. So our research is going to explore the following questions. Do employers even understand the term competencies? Do employers have job descriptions that include competencies? And if not, how are employers identifying the competencies they require for their various positions? How are they assessing them when they get presented? And we want to find out, are employers even open to looking at competencies or any kind of tools that can help with this? And then what kind of training do they need or want? And, lastly, would having a better understanding of competencies help employers feel more confident in hiring older workers? This is where we get back to older workers. And lastly, I guess we're also looking, do they have any fears of hiring older workers? So our research will begin with a literature review and an environmental scan. And during this time, we're also looking at having our local Employment Partnership Council, our LEPC, do a scan of local job boards to determine which sectors are having difficulty in recruitment, or are they recruiting for the same jobs over and over again. We're going to have an advisory committee of employers. We're bringing on some older workers to be on our advisory committee, and other service providers that are part of the CPCA. This environmental scan and research will be followed by interviews with local employers. And lastly, we'll be looking at any potential tools or resources that can help our employers. So what are the intended outcomes of our research? While this idea is focused on older workers, it could easily be transferable to foreign-trained individuals and other job seekers. Better ways of assessing and recognizing the knowledge, skills, and abilities of job seekers will enhance labor mobility, increase social cohesion, and foster economic prosperity. Recognizing the limits of credential evaluation only is the first step forward in finding useful solutions to the hiring process in many communities. While there's been much talk about recognizing formal and informal learning, it has never been tested as part of a recruitment strategy to meeting hiring needs, and if successful, could have a significant impact within the employment and training sectors in Ontario. Employers would benefit as they will be able to find the right employee for their businesses, saving frustration, time, and money. Older workers would have their extensive skills recognized, and they would be able to get into the labor market more quickly. They would also be able to assess employment opportunities more readily to see if they have the right skills for the job, and if not, be able to apply for appropriate retraining or skills enhancement. Job seekers would benefit as employers would have a better way of screening for the skills they need and would hire based on those skills to ensure a good fit. Employees within an organization would also benefit if the employer developed a competency-based strategy, and overall better hiring and recruitment using skills and knowledge matching would end in better and stronger organizations, businesses, and result in a stronger and vibrant economy. We are conducting this research over the next 11 months, and we're hopeful that there will be a phase 2 where we'll be able to take the training identified or any tools and actually implement them in the second year. So I thank you for listening to me today. I'm going to be here at the conference today and tomorrow, and I'm hoping that you take the opportunity to come and speak with me and talk about your experiences in your community, and I look forward to meeting you.
Thank you, Carol. On behalf of CAPLA, I'd like to thank you for sharing this information on the new project you're embarking on for older workers. Very good outcomes you're looking at. I have a little gift to give you here. Well hidden, you notice, with my napkin. These are Canadian-made sweets.
Oh, wow.
And we'll understand if they don't make it to December. Thank you very much. Thanks very much.